Right, welcome to the Walking Shoulder to Shoulder Step 12 meeting. It is with much warmth and love that I introduce Donna. We'll be speaking for 30 minutes on our 12th step, which reads, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. This will be followed by Q&A. Thanks again, Donna, and over to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Donna. I am an alcoholic and an addict. My sobriety and clean date is August 5th, 2000. I did not stop drinking. I did not stop using that day. I was surrendered. As I was walking down the block, I felt like I was too exhausted to think about how I was going to get out of this latest jam. I had 50 cents in my pocket, and wasn't the first time that I walked down the block like that. But this walk felt heavy, and it was hot, and a power burst upon me that I had never felt before, and I knew in that next moment that I never had to drink or use again. And we're on step 12, but I'm taking some people through step 1, and the deeper my oneness with spirit and my willingness to believe that there's this illusion of this separate self that I had been believing in, I'm seeing step 1 very deeply today. I'm willing to say out loud that the power and the control and the choice that was taken away, I believe that was orchestrated by God. Because if I had a choice, I would have stopped drinking, I would have stopped using, I would have never experienced living my life like I was dying. And that despair and misery would not have led to a surrendered state. So that I can hear the people that God placed in my life that had that it that I always wanted. I feel very blessed. I was in a therapeutic community before coming into Alcoholics Anonymous. It was a behavior modification joint. No 12 steps, a lot of untreated alcoholism. And I wasn't using that term then because I didn't know that term. There's a lot of things I discovered in AA, not just the principles, but I discovered a lot about this illness. I discovered a lot about my beliefs, my ideas, my emotions that were dominating me, right? But while I was in there, I went to an AA meeting and I saw distinctly the difference between the we in AA and the we in this therapeutic community. And the we in the therapeutic community was very disjointed. But there was a sense of love and compassion that the first couple of meetings I just cried because I felt safe. And so while I was in this therapeutic community, somebody asked me, was I willing to go to any length? And this is a story you guys have heard. If you've heard my story, I don't deviate from. I think when we tell our stories so much, we know our stories. That's why we shouldn't be afraid to share in a meeting. But I was introduced to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous while I lived in this place that was off the hook. There was a lot of drug dealers. It was either you go to jail or you beat the bid and you do the TC. I didn't do a number of them like a lot of us do. I just went through one. See, when I voluntarily signed up, I was done. I know some of us come in, we want to be done, but the problem hasn't been removed, it hasn't been relieved, and it hasn't disappeared. With me, those things had happened. And so I was racing every Saturday because I couldn't have a sponsor because I didn't have phone privileges, right? So I didn't come in relying on a human being. What I came in on was the book. And every Saturday I'm a New York girl. I lived in the therapeutic community was in Harlem. And every Saturday I raced and sat across from Loretta and Sydney, and they had met Joe Hawk. And I sat there, and my first big book I got from one of the nurses in the treatment facility, and she was not supposed to give me the book, but I think we can tell when people are sincere. See, when I left the therapeutic community, one of the counselors, because I was upstate, then I had to go downstate. Upstate, he slipped an NA book in my purse. He wasn't supposed to do that. But again, I think people know, those of us that are really have this willingness. I'm very emotional because I did a workshop earlier and we were reading more about alcoholism, and reading those first 3 paragraphs made me really get a sense as to living our lives like we were dying and trying to prove that we didn't have this problem, but time and time again we were being beaten. And so I think some of that is I'm bringing here today. And so I remember I would sit across from Loretta and I would go through this book because it's like, oh my God, I didn't know any of this. I felt like I was giving myself permission to discover what was finally wrong with me. And so now I'm starting to build a fellowship around me, because there's all these other people, addicts. Because if you went to an NA meeting in Harlem, you can tell people that went through the big book. You could tell. And so now I'm building this fellowship around me, and we would leave the workshop and we'd be on the corner of 138th and Lenox Avenue. We couldn't get off the corner because we're talking about what we were learning about this illness. It was powerful. And we're going from borough to borough because there were not a lot of big book meetings in New York. Even in the early 2000s, there were not a lot of big book meetings. And we were so arrogant back then. We would talk about page 52. Like really, like people that are not in the book, they don't know anything about page 52. We were like little mini Chris Reimers. They're killing people in AA. We've since all calmed down, even Chris. And so I'm starting to share, and people are noticing something different in my share, and people are coming and asking me to take them through the big book, and I hadn't gone through all the book, and I'm like, Loretta, what am I supposed to do? I have not finished all 164 pages. And she said, if you're a page ahead, you can take them through this book because you know more than they do, even if it's a page. Wow. And so that started my sponsorship, working with others. And because I came through a workshop, I knew that it was, and I had an amazing experience, because I was taken through this work for a spiritual experience, not just to go through the book and look for the warnings and the directions. I went through the book because this was going to be my path to God. And I took that set-aside prayer very seriously. Anytime I did any writing, I said that prayer. And my belief in God turned into faith, because when I did my first couple of inventories, what was coming down on the paper, I knew was not coming from my mind. And I'm trying to get into the habit of saying the mind, not my mind. I don't want to have this close association with something that was never mine to begin with. And so when I started to see what was coming down on the paper, I realized, whoa, maybe God is revealing. And so now I'm sitting in coffee shops. I'd get off from work and there was a coffee shop on 19th Street and 3rd Avenue, and that back table was always open, and we'd sit. I'm taking men and women through the book. Some people continued, some people didn't. No different than today. And I'm realizing that the more that I work with people, the less and less I'm thinking about me. I'm starting to experience the transformation in other people. See, I can't see it in me. But I was able to really bring my experiences into the 12 steps as I was taking people through. See, I know this is not about me managing your life. See, I think if I didn't use this book, what I would be doing, because I know myself, self with a small s, I'm going to want to tell you what to do, because, I want to still be big Willy Bobo, and if I can manage your life, then that's not what this program is about. It's about an ego deflation program. So when sponsees come to me, and I think I have just one in here today, I never tell them what I think they should do. I will share my experiences, and I will pose questions. It's interesting the way that coaches coach people is the same way that we deal with sponsees. We turn, and like how we go through the big book, what do we do in the big book? We turn the statements into questions so people can see for themselves their truth. I can't let you see your truth. But if you sit, the answers are within. Everything is within. We've been living life without. So I get to see that all the sponsors that I had, and I had more than one. I had Loretta and Sydney in the workshop, and then when I left the therapeutic community, she figuratively put my hand in Rashid's hand. And Rashid was probably one of my best teachers. He had such a relationship with God that he would say some things that I really didn't understand, but I understood, if you know what that means. I didn't understand, but I understood. And he made me feel comfortable because he would say, Donna, this ain't about catching up. This is about catching on. And you stay on this path and you'll catch on. And I did. And I was able to see what the authors of this book and what the early AAs were conveying to me. Is that we get to live life being one with our Creator. 1 + 1 still becomes 1. And we get to see that everything that we went through in life, the misery, despair, was necessary for the role that God assigns us. See, I assigned myself a role. I assigned you a role. And all I'm doing is I'm playing God. And I get to see, wow, we're not like normal people. I don't know of too many people that have been given the responsibility that we are given to carry our fellows home with us. And I'm always reminded of some of us go into the gates of insanity and death, and they use that term gates quite a bit. They use it in more about alcoholism, and they use it in how it works. And even Dr. Silkworth, the Dr. Silkworth alludes to a different kind of gate. And some people go into the gates of insanity and death, and they go straight home. I think even that is by God. But some of us are pulled from that gate. And I don't think we were pulled from the gate just to be okay. I don't think that we were pulled from that gate to now go back to the old threadbare idea like we're like other people. I don't think we're like other people. I think we have been given this illness so that we can be right here, right now, talking about step 12. Practicing spiritual principles in all of our lives and being of help. There's a big difference from living life outside in. When I was living life outside and I was of the world, power, money, and prestige was my lot. And I failed miserably. Maybe I was supposed to. Because everything I had acquired, I lost. I gave away. I didn't respect. And so now I'm at a place, can I be okay in what I have? So I'm in a season, in a winter season where there's a lot of uncertainty. I'm entering into a new phase of my earthly life in my age. I'm a senior citizen, never been here before. And that's a whole different, the body's different. The looks are going to fade. Am I going to have enough to sustain me? So more than ever, I got to lean in like my life depends upon it. and realize that I really don't have any problems. If we literally look at what Bill Wilson told us, he said that the power is going to handle our problems and manage all of our affairs. And what we need to do is to learn how to master these spiritual principles the same way we learned how to master fear, worry, doubt, insecurity. Masters at that. See, I can't learn how to be trustful and be faithful and worry at the same time. I can't. It's like trying to control and enjoy my drink at the same time. So if God is handling all of my problems and managing all of my affairs, I don't have any problems. And then I can sit in trust and sit in faith, and I can see life unfold. If I'm willing to believe that the same power that loved me but allowed me to live my life like I was dying and then remove the problem and put me in contact with you people and lets me see that, Donna, it wasn't that these people wouldn't love you better or wouldn't. I was able to see that most of the human race couldn't. What a humbling experience. I've been wanting people to be who they couldn't be. And so all of this happens to us, for us. That we stand shoulder to shoulder. I answer every phone call. People call me randomly. I think, for those of us that are retired, I think that we are uniquely positioned that we can be of service more than people that have a job. I take every phone call. Because I was reminded when I was new, I heard somebody say something, and I think what happens, we become the Dr. Silkworth to Bill. Remember when Bill was experiencing all this new transforming experiences, and he didn't have anybody to bounce it off on? So he bounced it off on Silkworth, and Silkworth's like, yo, whatever you got to hang on to it. That's what we do. Oh my God, Donna, I heard something and I felt something. And what I tell people, it's real. It's freaking real. It's so real that we don't even know how to describe it. We can't formulate the words to something that is so new but so powerful that we feel it deep within. And so that's why we stay here. We stay. I don't care how much time we're in this because we become the purveyors of hope. I don't care how much time we have, we still talk about what life is throwing at us today and how we're not being as affected. Because we will be tested. And what's being tested? Remember early on in step 2, we said God is everything. Well, Donna, if God is everything, why are you sweating? Am I willing to sit in the uncomfortability of not knowing? And really, the only reason why it's uncomfortable, because I have not mastered true trust, true stillness. And so it's so easy to fall back to fear because it's so familiar. I go back to what's familiar. But am I willing to sit in some new stuff? Because the transformation is on the other side of that. So I say all of this because this is how I talk to people. Did you not? I had a young lady call me up yesterday and she's talking, I couldn't follow her. It was like the Charlie Brown, wah, 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 wah. And then she gets to what sounds like what she should be considering to do. And I said, why did we waste all that time talking about the what's got you worried, and I knew before she told me why, because she was too afraid to say it out loud because she thought that she would be misunderstood. I said, but listen, sweetie, you're in this we. This is where you have the willingness to say some things that you're not really sure. Like even me sharing that I believe that God allowed me not to have choice. I could say that here. I may not be 100% in it, but I'm willing to say it out loud. We have such a mighty, mighty fellowship. True story, a guy called me up, texted me, it's all on text, in the UK. He's going to be in Seattle and asked if I knew some people. I don't know anybody in Seattle. I text my boy Devin C. Devin and I had the same home group. I'm a Brooklyn girl, right? And so Devin goes, oh, I know a shitload of people because I just was at the conference. And he said, this is the thing, what he said that was so powerful. He said, what do we need? What do we need, Donna? Now, what do we need includes the guy who's looking for someone. And what do we need includes us that are the ones that are going to be providing. What do we need? See, normal people might have thought that that was not that was an incomplete sentence. But I knew exactly what he meant. And it was such power in that. And I was able to convey that to the girl that was afraid to share this revelation that she was too afraid to believe in because it was so different and so new. And I made her feel comfortable. I said, guess what, sweetie? It says in step 11, we consider our plans for the day. It's okay to consider that. Because what you're going to do, you're going to bring it into prayer meditation every morning. You're going to trust and be guided by God. And so what started out as her being so confused and so conflicted and not know what to do, she was able to relax and be willing to lean into this one idea that just seemed so impossible. That's not my sponsee. But she's a fellow. She's a child of God. It says that God is a father and we are his children. See, I've been so busy trying to protect myself from you that all shifts. I realize we're all branches on one vine. So when I work with others, the only way I know how to work with others is I've got to introduce them to this book. Now, when I work with my sponsees who are going through the work again, I don't need to read the book with them line by line. But I have them read the book. I have them get a whole new book and read it. And if there's any words that you don't understand, look them up. I did that with my current sponsor because he didn't need to read the book with me line by line. I had an amazing experience reading this book with just me in the book. It's amazing. And I knew that I needed to go through the work again because I did a powerlessness exercise and I realized, oh, there's a lot of things I'm still trying to do. And some things I'm trying to stop doing. And I realized that all I'm really doing is I'm managing. It's got everything. And so every time I work with a new teacher, I get to have new ways of taking my sponsees to. I think more than sponsors, they've been all teachers. Right before because right now I have a CA sponsor, and that was powerful because number one, I didn't think I'd be in this fellowship. That's why God lead me, because I do know I had that stem, and you throwing me out your apartment, and I'm sitting in the hallway still smoking, crying. I think I'm qualified to be up in here. And he said, well, are you an addict or an alcoholic? And he asked me a question. He said, if you were going to be on an island for 30 days, what are you taking, alcohol or cocaine? And I was starting to think. He says, I don't want you to think. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to take. And he says, well, go do the work to see if you're an addict. Do you know how afraid I was? I was so afraid that after 24 years, I would discover that I'm not an alcoholic and that I'm an addict. And for 24 years, I've been lying to myself. I was so afraid to do that. I was so afraid to go through step one like that. But see, for me, when there's something that makes me fearful like this is when I use my sponsees. This is when I use you guys, that I mentioned it in a workshop that I was facilitating, and I was sharing with them the fear, because I was afraid that I would discover that I'm not really an alcoholic after all this time. But I did the exercise, and I found out that I am an alcoholic addicted to cocaine. I'm glad he gave me that exercise, because I didn't realize it would have that kind of profound effect on me. One of the things that he gave me to do that was really powerful, he said, now remember, no, you don't remember because I didn't mention this. Oh, I hated my mom. This is a woman who took the key away from me because she didn't trust me. And when we get to the part of the book, it says, if possible, invite your family and friends into morning meditation. And I was asked, have you invited your family into morning meditation? And I never did. And so every day at 9 o'clock Eastern time, my mom, who's 90, and her sister, who's 88, we read Jesus Calling. And I never thought that I would be doing this with them. And I never realized that my mom, when she was worried about me, because I never knew what my addiction did to her, that she read the Bible from the beginning to end when she was on the train going to work. And my mom also shared that she had a spiritual experience. She said something came over her and she wept. And I said, Mom, I never heard that. She says, because I've never told anyone. So that's what we get to do here, right? I had to introduce spiritual timekeeping, because they don't know how to let one person share and then the other person share. So that was funny. But this is the kind of life we get to live. I mean, just be willing to go to any length. And there has never been a time. Oh, there was a time, and I only have 2 minutes, but trust me, my spiritual life has not always been straight. I got into a relationship, and then I, work. And all of a sudden, I didn't have enough time to pray and meditate. I became of the world again. And all of a sudden, everything about self became very apparent. All I thought about was me, 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 me. And I was able to see that. And I remember I ran to a meeting and I think I had one sponsee. I was going to maybe 2 meetings a month. I mean, it had gotten to that. But I was able to see where my thinking was taking me. And I remember I ran to a meeting and I shared. And after I shared, I just was shaken. I don't know what God did, but I was shaken. And somebody asked me to share at their anniversary. And this is somebody I didn't know, but they heard my share. And then I went to a couple of meetings because I was now back in the fellowship. And I'm sharing just the way we share. And in the course of going to those meetings, people were coming up to me, asking me to take them through the big book. And this was before COVID. The next thing I knew, I had 9 people sitting around my dining room table. And I remember I kind of looked up. I'm like, God, I get it. So I know what it's like not to be available. I know what it's not like to be of service. And it's not pretty. but I also know the joys of working with others, because there's an emotional thing that happens that I just start crying. And even on Zoom, I can feel spirit. I feel very emotional in this meeting. I feel your spirit. And I'm just honored that I get to live this life. So every bit of despair and misery that I went through, it makes sense when people were watching us, looking at us going, look at that poor fool, the way they're living their lives. They didn't know they were witnessing something that we had to live. So we can be here being of service. And just by sharing our experiences, we give hope. We give our time and our experiences. So thank you for allowing me to be here today. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, Donna. Beautiful share. But you're not out of the hot seat yet. Donna, we will now open the room up for Q&A. Please limit your questions to 2 minutes. You can also post a question in the chat or anonymously to the service team. We especially welcome questions from our newer members. Please use the raised hand function. Brilliant. Couple of hands up. Kasim, do you want to come in and ask your question, please?
Yeah. I thought, first of all, I just really want to say I was just so drawn into Donna, and, I just want to really show some gratitude towards her, because every time I listen, I just feel that I can just, drawn in, and I can feel the realness of it. At the moment, my mind's gone blank, so I don't have any questions, but then I probably will remember. But I just really wanted to say thank you, because I always get a lot from your shares.
Thank you. Danny, do you want to come in with your question?
Yeah, thanks, Ollie. My name's Danny. I'm an addict. And Donna, thanks so much. Always so good to see you and hear you. And I know that you are, a demonstration of this program, and I know you always pick up the phone to me when I reach out. And thank you, Donna. My question, you mentioned that you knew it was time to go through the work again when you'd done that powerlessness exercise. Is taking sponsees back through the work, is that something that you would ever suggest, or do you just let spirit reveal to them when they think they're ready to go back through? Thanks, Donna.
I don't know when a person needs to go through, but when I can tell, we can both tell in their conversations, where they're being blocked, where they're managing, where there's a lot of fear. And they'll say to me, I think it's time I go through. And plus, see, this is about a demonstration. They see how I go through, because I share with them my experiences. When I've been sharing with them what I'm doing with my sponsor and the experience I'm having, so it gives them the willingness and the desire to want to go through. And it's interesting because it's like we connect the dots. Like the way I'm going through with Mike, not reading the book with me, now I know how to take my sponsees through, that I don't need to read the book with them. The same exercises that he's giving me, I can give them. So I feel like it was like great synergy. And so I have 2 sponsees that are doing inventory. And the thing that they're doing new that I didn't do with them before is they're doing a regret and remorse inventory, which I was introduced to by Mike McKenzie. And I had never done a regret and remorse, and I never gave them that inventory. So this was something new for them.
Great question, Danny. Thanks for your answer. Donna, Jojo, do you want to ask your question, please?
Hi guys, my name's Jojo and I'm an addict, and thank you, Donna, for your share. I always get so much from you. I just don't know why I can't get it. I relapsed again yesterday and I just don't know why I can't get it. I'm lost. Absolutely lost. And I just don't know why I can't get it.
It sounds to me that you're in the best possible place to be in right now. Being lost and not know what to do. It's when we don't know what to do. That's when there's space for grace. So are you working with someone right now? Do you have a sponsor?
Yeah, I'm lucky enough that she's kept me on, and I was only on step 1 because I relapsed 31 days ago, and then I relapsed again yesterday, and I had a few years, and then I was hiding behind service. Do you know what I mean? Like hiding behind service, being dishonest, and all the things I shouldn't do. All my defects of character are all coming out, and just not being honest about them. And now I'm being honest. It's just, it's so painful.
But guess what, honey? Maybe, it says we have to be pretty badly mangled. And sometimes the pretty badly mangled happens when we're in recovery. It says we pick up these spiritual tools laid at our feet, and sometimes we're not ready to pick it up. The ego still, pride resists admitting defeat. And maybe this is what it needed to take for you to get to this place of, damn, I don't know what to do. I used to hate when people would say, you're in the best possible place you can be in, but it sounds to me that there is a level of deep willingness.
I just want it so bad.
All right.
I don't want to be like this. I just want it so bad.
So are you back to working with your sponsor? Are you going through the book again? Are you going through the steps again?
She said it's going to take a couple of weeks for me to get back to where I was, and I was only on step 1.
So you're gonna continue on step 1.
Yeah, in a couple of weeks, yeah. That's what she said, in a couple of weeks. But I love her to bits. I want this sponsor. I had an emotional relapse at 2 years, and I asked her a couple of years ago, and she couldn't take me on. And she took me on after 31 days ago when I relapsed. She took me on, and I'm lucky enough that she's kept me.
Well, I don't think it's lucky. That's what we do. Like we're here for you. And so I would sit with, and I wish somebody else can jump in, because, I'm going out on a limb on this one. If you can't wait 3 weeks, baby girl, you find somebody that can work with you tomorrow or today. I always sound like Robert De Niro, today.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Call me. I can get you some numbers, sis.
Thank you.
I don't know if Angela can take on any girls, but
yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. I'll give you a call later.
Thanks for coming in, Jojo.
Thank you.
And maybe there's some women in here. If anybody can take on any new sponsees, so this sister doesn't have to wait 3 weeks, a month. Put your number in the chat. Let her see how we work here.
Angela, do you want to come in with your question, please?
I feel like an angry black woman. I don't mean to be.
Angela, alcoholic.
We're getting a bad rap these days. So.
Thanks, Ollie, and thank you, Donna, for your angry outburst. I really appreciate it. I have been on the end of them. It's lovely. It's lovely to see we're not the only ones that get passionate, I always say, very passionate. And I love listening to you, and I love the way you explain it. And like you say, when I've gone through it, when you were explaining before I think it was Danny's question about how you explain to people how you go through the process with your sponsor. And that's what drew me in. And I thought, I want to go through that process. I want to do that. And that's exactly what we've done. And it's just, I'm always blown away by how every time I go through this process, that spiritual experience changes. Every single time it just changes. And it's a constant change, isn't it? It's just a beautiful, beautiful change. It really is. And when you were talking to Jojo there, and I know I'm kind of cross-sharing and I shouldn't, and I'm really sorry, but I'm not sorry. And I'll give you a call after this. It's not about having one sponsor. If you want a sponsor to go through the work with, you can. But you need that God squad. There's nothing wrong with having a few people that you're going to sit there and read that book with. You can read this book with as many people as you like. You really can. And I'll give you a call after this. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Sorry I didn't have a question, Ollie. Thanks, Donna.
Thanks for coming in, Angela. Howard, do you want to come in with your question, please?
Hey there, I'm Howard. I'm an alcoholic. Donna, thank you so much for that. And um, and I really could identify with like a lot of what you said. And yeah, and the thing you talked about, the exercise you did. I was wondering if you could post that. Because
Exercise, Howard.
yes, ma'am, the exercise.
The powerlessness one?
Yes, yeah, that would be
I will.
amazing. And I've been sober. I'll be sober 10 years in January, and most recently I've dealt with some serious loss. I mean, a best friend of mine took his own life on April 3rd, and before that, a friend of mine, or one of my, well, my cousin's husband took his own life in January, and I found my father to suicide when I was back in 2005, and that's what kind of led me to drinking. But most recently, and for the last few years, I've really hit a wall in my recovery. And when it comes to getting full of bitterness and full of like just this not good stuff in here, and I want to be of light, I want to be of love, I want to be of you know positivity, and I think I know I have a lot of step work I need to redo. And I just really identified with everything you said, and I really appreciated everything you said, and I definitely would like a recording of the message today, because I think it would be really helpful for me to go back through it again. So that's all I have. Thank you. I'm sorry if it wasn't a question. I'm sorry, but I just wanted to say thank you.
Thanks, Howard. Yeah, the recording will be posted on Audio Anonymous tomorrow. MJ, do you want to come in with your question, please?
Yes, please. Hi, everybody. I'm MJ. Very grateful, recovered addict. Hi, Donna. Thank you so much for your share. My question is this, please. Can you share a time when walking shoulder to shoulder with another addict actually taught you something about yourself, please?
So I do steel on steel, as iron sharpens iron. And once a month, it's myself and 3 other alcoholics, and we give ourselves spiritual consent to ask questions after we shared how we're showing up in various areas of our life. Because you can hear things in the crevices that I may not see still. And so when it's your turn, you tell me what you've heard. And I do not have the privilege of coming back and saying, well, what I meant or what I plan on. And so it's very uncomfortable to hear somebody tell you about yourself. But it's uncomfortable in a safe, it's not a critical. And so it was revealed to me because I do this prayer meditation with my mom, and one day my aunt wasn't there and it was just me and my mom. And all of a sudden, I felt unsafe around her. I felt like I was that kid again that was waiting for her to yell at me, to criticize me. And for a moment, I didn't feel safe. And so when I shared that, they said, well, have you thought about going to ACA? So the thing that one thing leads to something else, like me praying and meditating with my mom, led into me seeing that perhaps there's still some stuff that's still, because the body stores pain and misery. So it gave me something to look at. I found a meeting, an in-person meeting. I haven't gone yet, but it was something that I needed to hear that I probably would have overlooked. I think the first time that we get to experience people telling us things that we can't really see is the first time we sit in the fifth step. I think that first fifth step smashes the myth that we're separated from one another, because in that fifth step, it becomes a holy trinity, ourselves, another human being, and God. And we get to see that we're not really separated because we were able to share it openly. So there's nothing that I'm open, and I have women that I'm accountable to. So I hope I answered that. I think I did. Maybe I over answered it, but.
Thanks, MJ. Thanks for your question.